everyone. This morning I want to do something you may never have heard of before. I want to give you some credit in time. I know in the past I've gone overtime, so this morning I have a short sermon, so I'm going to give you some credit. But I want to start out by saying I remember reading this week a little short story about a woman in her 30s that had some fear. And so she went to see her pastor, and after a long talk and going back into her childhood and whatnot, her fear stemmed from when she was a little girl and her father would not lock the doors on the house. She didn't know if she would be protected or not. But when I grew up in Northern California back in the 40s and 50s, I don't think we had locks on our doors. People left the keys in their cars. Nobody kept one key to a vehicle. They just leave it in there all the time, in the driveway, out front, all over. A lot of pickups had guns in the back windows, in racks, whatnot. I don't ever remember having a locked door. Didn't lock your cars when you go any place. Things have changed. And so, fathers, lock your doors. Sammy was a beautiful little baby boy. He was no ordinary baby. Sammy held great promise for his parents. He was promised to his mother by God. He was going to be a great person. Sammy had all the markings of an important leader. Sammy's parents were so proud. Sammy was born under favorable circumstances. His birth was divinely announced, like I said. The plan for his living was made known, and his parents were godly. Couldn't have had a better start, better bringing. So if you turn your Bible to Judges 13, I want to look at the story there of Sammy. Joshua, Judges, Ruth. Okay, we're going to look at Judges 13. Going to consider Sammy for a few minutes. So this morning I want to talk about how to fail at fatherhood. So it's going to be kind of in the negative this morning, a little bit. Judges 13. I want to read the first 5 verses there in Judges 13. So Judges 13, 1-5. Are we all there? I have the King James, so it might be a little different than yours. Judges 13, 1. And the children of Israel did evil again in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hands of the Philistines 40 years. It just seemed the Israelites just always revert back to idolatry for some reason. Isn't that something, how the world is always looking for something to worship instead of God? Verse 2, and there was a certain man of Zorah of the family of the Danites, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren and bare not. Verse 3, and the angel of the Lord appeared unto the woman, and said unto her, behold now, thou art barren and bearest not, but thou shalt conceive and bear a son. Verse 4, now therefore beware, I pray thee, and drink not wine nor strong drink, and eat not any unclean thing. Verse 5, for lo, thou shalt conceive and bear a son, and no razor shall come on his head, for the child shall be a Nazarite unto God from the womb, and he shall begin to deliver Israel out of the hand of the Philistines. So Sammy had a great big future plan for him. And his purpose was recorded there. We just read the beginning of it. So he was born into a plan laid out by God. How could you do any better than that? What a tremendous beginning Sammy had. Those days are similar to ours. The world system has 4 basic goals that can be described in 4 words: fame, fortune, power, pleasure. These are the measure of this world's success. And it is not easy to live in a world with such an effective system. It is not hard to fail as a father. So let's go to Judges 14, the next chapter. You can look at that in your leisure, how the angel of the Lord visited them and whatnot. Okay, Judges 14, 1. And Samson went down to Timnah and saw a woman in Timnath of the daughters of the Philistines. Verse 2. And he came up and told his father and his mother, and said, I have seen a woman in Timnath of the daughters of the Philistines. Now therefore get her for me to wife. This is the beginning of Samson's downfall. Samson focused on the wrong thing. The woman's name is never mentioned, only she was a Philistine woman. And so guess what's going to happen? Sammy's going to be drawn into the Philistine lifestyle. She probably had no character and no spiritual heritage. Had it been any different, the writer probably would have mentioned it. Samson failed to notice what kind of a woman she was. And worse, he didn't care. He wanted her body. Get her for me. So the number one thing, if you want to fail as a father, give your child everything they want. As we get older, we learn that one of the worst things is to get everything we want. How many of us are thankful we didn't have prayers answered? I know I've prayed for things and then come to find out, oh, Lord, thank you, I didn't get that. So we almost apologize to the Lord. And if you want to fail as a father, don't teach your child to wait. See, Samson should have waited, but he was impatient. So you want to teach your child to wait, but give them everything they want. No, we don't want that, do we? No, we don't want that. So if you want to fail at fatherhood, give them all they want. Verse 3, 14:3. We're in Judges chapter 14, verse 3. Then his father and his mother said to him, Is there never a woman among the daughters of thy brethren, or among all my people, that thou goest to take a wife of the uncircumcised Philistines? And Samson said unto his father, Get her for me, for she pleaseth me well. In the Hebrew language, the word her is emphatic. Get her for me. So if you want to fail as a father, always give in to the demands of your child. Always give in to them. You're guaranteed problems down the line. Okay, Judges 14:4. But his father and his mother knew not that it was of the Lord that he sought an occasion against the Philistines. Well, you have an occasion against the Philistines a different way than this, because it's going to backfire on him. For at that time the Philistines had dominion over Israel. His job was to start to deliver Israel, but it seemed he got sidetracked on a regular basis. He spent very little time delivering Israel and a great deal of time pleasing himself. So Samson lost the sight of his vision. Okay, verse 5 of Judges 14. Then went Samson down and his father and his mother to Timnath, and came to the vineyards of Timnath, and behold, a young lion roared against him. Verse 6, and the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him, and he rent him, or tore him in two, as he would have rent a kid, a baby goat. And he had nothing in his hand, but he told not his father or his mother what he had done. Verse 7, and he went down and talked with the woman, and she pleased Samson well. Verse 8, and after a time he returned to take her, and he turned aside to see the carcass of the lion, and behold, there was a swarm of bees and honey in the carcass of the lion. So he made a beehive in there. Verse 9, and he took thereof in his hands and went on eating, and came to his father and his mother and gave them, and they did eat. But he told not them that he had taken the honey out of the carcass of the lion. As he was passing by, he ate a little honey out of this hive on his way down to see this girl. So this broke the Nazirite vow. He was supposed to stay away from dead things. And Nazirite was not supposed to cut his hair. He was not supposed to eat unclean foods and drinks, and he was never to go near the dead. So Samson broke all three vows, as we shall see, and corrupted himself. So Samson handled his leisure time carelessly. So if you want to fail as a father, be careless with your children's leisure time and your own. So just do your own thing all the time whenever you think about it. Verse 10, Judges 14:10. So his father went down unto the woman, and Samson made there a feast, for so used the young man to do. Anyway, the young men were in the habit of making the feast for a wedding. So Samson is getting ready to marry this woman. It was customary for the young men to put on a feast. Okay, verse 11. And it came to pass, when they saw him, that they brought 30 companions to be with him. 12. And Samson said unto them, I will now put forth a riddle unto you. If ye can certainly declare it to me within the 7 days of the feast, and find it out, then I will give you 30 sheets and 30 changes of garments. Verse 13, first part. But if ye cannot declare it to me, then ye shall give me 30 sheets and 30 changes of garments. Isn't Samson supposed to be delivering Israel? Yes. Now he's giving Philistine riddles. What's a judge doing making riddle, foolish riddle, a bunch of foolishness? Okay, verse 13, the rest of verse 13. And they said unto him, Put forth thy riddle, that we may hear it. Then he gave the silly riddle, verse 14. And he said unto them, Out of the eater came forth meat, and out of the strong came forth sweetness. And they could not in 3 days expound the riddle. They scratched their heads and their beards for 3 days and couldn't come up with a riddle. Certainly not. Who could? Who would you know what this all means if you didn't know the history of him? What in the world did it matter? What is a deliverer doing making up riddles and poetry? What is Samson doing hanging around this Philistine camp cultivating friendships and getting a heathen bride? None. He shouldn't have been there. It's going to cost him, we're going to see. Sure, God turned cursing into blessing, and Samson did ultimately deliver a few, but it was so off target that it's almost pathetic compared to what he could have done. But Samson is distracted. So if you want to fail at fatherhood, you do what Samson did. Well, they couldn't get the riddle, and verse 15 tells their approach. Judges 14:15. And it came to pass on the 7th day that they said unto Samson's wife, Entice thy husband that he may declare unto us the riddle, lest we burn thee. Look how violent they're going to be. Lest we burn thee, which means kill you with fire. No match burn, but be killing them. Lest we burn thee in thy father's house with fire. Have ye called us to take that we have it? It is not so. What a great group of guys to run around with. They are dangerous people to be with. They're wicked. These thugs are ruthless and will resort to violence, even murder. Yet he's hanging around them. And he's going to find out it's not so wise. Verse 16, this woman turns on her greatest weapon. And Samson's wife wept before him and said, Thou dost but hate me, and thou lovest me not. Thou hast put forth a riddle unto the children of my people, and hast not told me. Oh, boo-hoo, boo-hoo-hoo. And he said unto her, Behold, I have not told it my father nor my mother, and shall I tell it thee? Samson really thinks he is strong, but look at the next verse, 17, the first part of 17. And she wept before him the 7 days while their feast lasted. That was a long, torturous time. No man can withstand 7 days of this boo-hoo and bawling and crying and whining, day in and day out, whining and crying, nag, nag, boo-hoo, cry, nag, whine, yuck. It just makes you sick when you think about it. Okay, last part of verse 17. And it came to pass on the 7th day that he told her, because she lay sore upon him, and she told the riddle to the children of her people. Can you believe that? What is he doing, dinking around with a riddle and a nagging woman like this? That would drive anybody crazy. This guy should be delivering Israel from the Philistine oppression and control. Look at verse 18. And the men of the city said unto him on the 7th day, before the sun went down, the riddle, What is sweeter than honey, and what is stronger than a lion? And he saith unto them, If ye had not plowed with my heifer, ye would not found out my riddle. And it's true, but if he hadn't been such a weak, puny person, and anyway, sad. Verse 19, And the Spirit of the Lord came upon him, and he went down to Ashkelon, and slew 30 men of them, and took their spoil, and gave change of garment unto them, which expounded the riddle. And his anger was kindled, and he went up to his father's house. Verse 20. But Samson's wife was given to his companion, whom he had used as his friend. So it's pretty sad. They're really sad. It's about Sammy getting in trouble. Okay, chapter 15, verse 1. But it came to pass within a while after, in the time of wheat harvest, that Samson visited his wife with the kid, took a baby goat. And he said, I will go in unto my wife into the chamber. But her father would not allow him, not suffer him, would not allow him to go in. So it's pretty sad. After 20 years let me look at chapter 15, verse 20. It says, he judged Israel in the days of the Philistines 20 years. After 20 years of judging Israel, whether spotless or spotted, we are not told. 20 years later, he was right back in the same dump. Horsing around, fooling around. Right back of the woman that's not even named. Once again, he was romancing a body. So it's pretty sad. He didn't care one whit about the woman of the street. Okay, look at chapter 16, verses 2. And it was told the Gazites, saying, Samson is come hither. And they compassed him, however you pronounce that, however you want to pronounce it, and laid wait for him all night in the gate of the city, and were quiet all the night, saying, in the morning, when it's day, we shall kill him. Verse 3, and Samson lay till midnight, and arose at midnight, and took the doors of the gate of the city, and the two posts. These were huge, big gate doorposts, and went away with them, bar and all, put them upon his shoulders, carried them up to the top of a hill that is before Hebron, many miles away. This was not just at the edge of town. He carried these things for many miles. Verse 4, and it came to pass afterward that he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. So we remember the story about that. He is not delivering Israel. He is finding a woman in every town, horsing around. He is not tending to business. I will tell you something that I've been thinking about for a long time, and that is this. The majority of sins are committed have to do with sex in one way or another. You've probably heard the statement, love is blind. Well, I'll tell you, sex is the blindfold. If you want to fail at fatherhood, just let your children run loose, late, and long. And I can almost guarantee your child will find a trap to fall in. We've all known about that. Satan is there waiting. Don't forget, Satan's favorite time is nighttime. And most of his dirty work is done at night, in the darkness, in more ways than one. Also, statistics reveal that crime goes up in the summertime. Okay, Judges 16, verse 5. And the lords of the Philistines came up to her and said unto her, entice him, and see wherein his great strength lieth, by what means we may prevail against him, and that we may bind him and afflict him, and we will give thee every one of us 1,100 pieces of silver. Verse 6, and Delilah said to Samson, tell me, I pray thee, wherein thy great strength lieth, and wherein thou mightest be bound and afflicted. That's pretty direct and pretty clear. But he's so stupid that he can't hear the words she's saying. How can we destroy you, Samson? But you'd think he'd be wise to, wouldn't he? She's even told him what we want to do, bind you and keep you. Really pathetic. Anyway, we go through the chapter there, and it talks about, he fools her several times. Well, if you tie me with this, tie me with that, I'll be weak as other men. And she says, the Philistines be upon thee, Samson. Wakes him up, and he breaks loose and gets free. And time after time, several times to go through that, you think he'd be smart enough to have the intelligence of a grown person to know there's a trap here. Now, some of you may remember this story from your childhood. Jonathan Swift wrote a fable many years ago that many of us have read as children entitled Gulliver's Travels. Do any of you remember that? It is an interesting story of a man, for some reason, found himself on an island occupied by little creatures, little elves. You remember what happened? And those little elves had no ability or power to capture Gulliver. Any one of the little strands stretched across his body could be easily broken. But one day, At an unguarded moment, he fell asleep. And you remember the story. They began to wrap him about with little threads one by one. Oh, many, 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 many threads. Like a web, until at the close of their trap, he awoke and found himself unable to pull free. Because all those threads that were wrapped around him added up, he was caught in a very simple trap. Threads add up, they can be strong. Ropes are made of small fibers, aren't they? Small threads. This is the story of Samson, just like Gulliver. Samson played with sin, and it blinded him and brought an early death. So maybe this is our story. You know, this could be any of us. You hate to admit it, it's a shameful fact. You hope you're not found out, but we could all be in a trap and not know it. Some of us have found ourselves like Gulliver. Instead of Samson bringing glory to God, he gave the Philistines occasion to glorify their God. How pathetic is that? Instead of Samson bringing glory to God, he fell into a trap and God lost glory. If you're a child of God, then you have access to some divine power to break free from sin. And this power is all that's needed to withstand the onslaught of the enemy. So where sin abounds, grace does much more abound. And I love that promise, don't you? So we want to tap into that story. So I want to close with a short story, that is the opposite of a failed father. So I want to close with this. Once upon a time, there was a great man who married the woman of his dreams. With their love, they procreated a little girl. She was a bright and cheerful little girl, and the great man loved her very much. When she was very little, he would pick her up, hum a tune, dance with her around the room, and he would tell her, "I love you, little girl." When the little girl was grown up, the great man would hug her and tell her, "I love you, little girl." The little girl would pout and say, "I'm not a little girl anymore." Then the man would laugh and say, "But to me, you'll always be my little girl." The little girl who was not little anymore left home and went into the world. As she learned more and more about herself, she learned more about the man. She saw that he truly was great and strong. For now she recognized his strengths. One of his strengths was his ability to express his love to his family. It didn't matter where she went in the world, the man would call her and say, "I love you, little girl." The day came when the little girl who was not little anymore received a phone call. The great man was damaged. He had had a stroke. He was aphasic, they explained to the girl. He couldn't talk anymore, and they weren't sure that he could understand the words spoken to him. He could no longer smile, laugh, walk, hug, dance, or tell the little girl who was not little anymore that he loved her. So she went to the side of the great man. When she walked into the room and saw him, he looked small and not strong at all. He looked at her and tried to speak, but he could not. The little girl did the only thing she could do. She climbed upon the bed next to the great man. Tears ran down both their faces, from both their eyes, and she drew her arms around the useless shoulders of her father. Her head on his chest, she thought of the many things. She remembered the wonderful times together and how she had always felt protected and cherished by the great man. She felt grief for the loss she was to endure, the words of love that had comforted her. Then she heard from within the man the beat of his heart, the heart where the music and the words had always lived. The heart beat on, steadily, unconcerned about the damage to the rest of the body. While she rested there, the magic happened. She heard what she needed to hear. His heart beat out the words that his mouth could not speak. "I love you, I love you, I love you, little girl, little girl, little girl." And she was comforted.